12,000 years ago, on the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, a silent revolution began. It wasn't led by kings or warriors, but by barley, wheat, and domesticated pigs. This was not merely a change in diet, it was the foundation of a new kind of human society, civilization. From hunting to farming, for millions of years, Homo sapiens survived as hunters and gatherers. Mobility was essential. Life revolved around the rhythms of migration, seasonal fruiting, and the movement of game. But agriculture changed everything. Gradually, people learned to plant crops, herd animals, and stay in one place. The domestication of plants and animals marked a shift from foraging to food production. People cleared land, dug irrigation canals, and sowed seeds. With reliable food sources, they began to settle. Permanent homes replaced temporary camps. Communal storage replaced individual foraging. And a different kind of world emerged: surplus and population growth. For the first time in human history, food production exceeded consumption. Surplus became the new standard. This excess had far-reaching consequences. Populations grew rapidly. Stable food supplies supported more births and fewer deaths. Larger communities formed around fertile lands. Surplus also freed a portion of the population from the task of producing food. Not everyone had to be a farmer. New roles appeared: potters, blacksmiths, priests, builders, and administrators. Division of labor expanded. This diversification led to the first steps of social complexity. Power and resources began to concentrate. Some individuals gained authority not through strength, but through control of grain, land, and labor. Food is power. Grain stores became wealth. Those who controlled them became powerful. The ability to allocate food meant the ability to command loyalty, to reward allies, and to punish dissenters. Societies began to stratify. At the top were the elites, those who managed, governed, and controlled. Below were the laborers, producers, and servants. These hierarchies were primitive but effective. Rules were needed to maintain order. Systems of governance emerged, some theocratic, some tribal, some based on kinship, but all revolved around managing food, land, and people. This was the blueprint of the first political structures. Law followed. Property, theft, trade, and conflict required regulation. Oral traditions laid the groundwork. Later, writing would codify it. The organization of food led directly to the organization of society. Food as power. Grain stores became wealth. Those who controlled them became powerful. The ability to allocate food meant the ability to command loyalty, to reward allies, and to punish dissenters. Societies began to stratify. At the top were the elites, those who managed, governed, and controlled. Below were the laborers, producers, and servants. These hierarchies were primitive but effective. Rules were needed to maintain order. Systems of governance emerged, some theocratic, some tribal, some based on kinship, but all revolved around managing food, land, and people. This was the blueprint of the first political structures. Law followed. Property, theft, trade, and conflict required regulation. Oral traditions laid the groundwork. Later, writing would codify it. The organization of food led directly to the organization of society. Part 2. The first urban centers emerging from the fields. Agriculture was the beginning. Cities were the outcome. When humans gathered not only to survive, but to organize, innovate, and exchange, urban life began. Mesopotamia, the cradle of cities. Around 5,000 years ago, in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the city of Uruk emerged. It is widely considered the first true city in human history. Uruk had defined boundaries, monumental temples, residential districts, and bustling marketplaces. The layout of the city revealed a new level of spatial and social complexity. Massive mud brick walls surrounded the city, marking its physical and political territory. Ziggurats, temple towers, rose above the landscape, symbolizing both religious devotion and centralized authority. Homes clustered around these structures, forming neighborhoods organized by social class or profession. Economic activity thrived. Artisans, merchants, farmers, and priests operated within a shared urban environment. Uruk marked a turning point, a permanent, densely populated, and administratively coordinated human settlement. It was no longer a village, it was a city. Egypt, urban development along the Nile. In contrast to the urban sprawl of Mesopotamia, ancient Egyptian cities developed along the banks of the Nile with a different character. Urban centers here were closely tied to religious and royal institutions. Temples, palaces, and tomb complexes dominated the cityscape. Power was concentrated in the hands of a theocratic elite. Cities were often built to serve the state and its rituals. Yet within and around these sacred zones lived a wide range of people: craftsmen, builders, traders, and farmers. The population density was high, but the planning remained hierarchical. Infrastructure in Egyptian cities included grain storage facilities, irrigation networks, and transportation hubs linked by the river. Despite their ceremonial nature, these cities functioned as economic and administrative centers, essential to the stability of the state. The Indus Valley planned cities ahead of their time. In the Indus Valley, cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa demonstrated remarkable foresight in urban design. Their most notable features were not temples or palaces, but grids, drains, and housing blocks. Streets were laid out in precise rectangular patterns. Public drainage systems and covered sewers ran beneath the roads, an advanced form of urban sanitation unseen in other regions at the time. Residential areas were clearly divided by class. Some homes had private wells and indoor bathrooms, suggesting early forms of domestic planning. Public buildings included granaries and assembly halls. The absence of monumental temples suggests a society with more decentralized or civic-focused governance. The cities of the Indus Valley did not rely on kings or priests to shape their form. They relied on planning, standardization, and collective organization, shared traits of early urban centers. Despite their differences, these early cities shared core characteristics that defined urban life: centralized authority. Whether it took the form of a priest-king, pharaoh, or bureaucratic council, every city had a system of governance. Cities required coordination of food supplies, labor, defense, and infrastructure. Specialization of labor. Urban populations were diverse in function. Builders, smiths, merchants, soldiers, scribes, and religious figures all played distinct roles. This division of labor made cities productive hubs of innovation and efficiency, record-keeping and administration. Urban complexity demanded tools to manage information. Writing systems emerged in every ancient civilization, with urban centers, cuneiform in Mesopotamia, hieroglyphs in Egypt, seals and scripts in the Indus Valley. These records documented grain quotas, tax collection, trade accounts, legal decrees, and religious texts. Trade and connectivity. Cities did not exist in isolation. They were linked by trade routes, riverine, overland, or maritime. Goods, people, and ideas moved between urban centers, forming early networks of cultural and economic exchange. Urban life changed the structure of human existence. From scattered communities focused on survival, humans evolved into citizens of organized, interdependent societies. The city was not just a place, it was a system, a framework, and a revolution in human organization. Ardfari, the legacy of cities, shaping human history. Cities were not just collections of buildings, they were engines of transformation. When people gathered in permanent, densely populated centers, they did more than construct homes. They constructed the future, accelerating cultural evolution. Urban life intensified the pace of human development. The proximity of thousands of individuals led to rapid and sustained cultural exchange. Cities became incubators for ideas. Innovation no longer spread slowly from tribe to tribe. Instead, cities facilitated the rapid transmission of knowledge, techniques, and inventions. The wheel, writing, metallurgy, calendars, all were refined and shared within urban environments. Cross-cultural interaction flourished. Merchants, diplomats, and travelers brought foreign customs, goods, and stories into cities, blending and reshaping them. Urban centers created cultural synthesis, laying the foundation for new languages, religions, and philosophies. Writing systems were developed and perfected in cities. Legal codes emerged to regulate behavior in crowded societies. Music, performance, and philosophical discourse became public activities. Cities gave form to civilization's intellectual and artistic identity. Cities and the birth of empires. Cities were more than population centers. They became administrative cores from which empires expanded. Every major empire in history had its roots in a dominant city. Babylon, with its monumental walls and ziggurats, was the seat of Mesopotamian power. Thebes stood as a ceremonial and religious heart of ancient Egypt. Teotihuacan functioned as a planned city in Mesoamerica, supporting tens of thousands and influencing an entire region. Chang'an in ancient China was a hub of bureaucracy, trade, and military coordination. These cities coordinated the extraction of tribute, enforcement of law, maintenance of roads, and deployment of armies. Bureaucracies operated from palaces, with scribes and officials managing vast imperial territories. Urban centers allowed rulers to consolidate power and control. Without cities, empires could not have existed. The birthplace of religion and art. Urban societies required social cohesion. Religion provided it. Temples, shrines, and public rituals emerged to give cities spiritual structure. Gods were localized, assigned to rivers, hills, crops, or rulers. As cities grew, so did the scale of religious practices. Massive temples were built. Public ceremonies marked agricultural cycles, royal births, and military victories. These rituals unified diverse populations. Religion became both personal belief and public performance. Cities also gave rise to organized artistic expression. Wall carvings, statues, music, literature, and architecture flourished. Art reflected the structure of society, depicting rulers, deities, workers, and myths. It served both aesthetic and political functions, reinforcing power and identity. Urban environments offered the patronage and audience that art required to thrive. Centers of learning and scientific exploration. Knowledge needed a place to accumulate. Cities provided that place. Libraries collected scrolls, tablets, and manuscripts. The Library of Alexandria housed the collective knowledge of the ancient Mediterranean. Scholars gathered there to study astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and mathematics. Schools emerged to train scribes, administrators, and priests. Literacy and numeracy became professional skills. In cities like Baghdad, the House of Wisdom served as a research center where scholars translated and expanded upon Greek, Persian, and Indian works. Observation, measurement, and experimentation became possible when resources and records were centralized. Astronomy, engineering, and urban planning advanced quickly. Cities enabled systematic inquiry into the world. They were the first institutions to preserve, transmit, and expand human understanding across generations. Part 4. The Modern City, Echoes of the Past. Modern cities may appear futuristic, but their foundations are ancient. Look around. Intersections, traffic lights, public squares, markets, libraries. These are not new inventions. They are modern iterations of ideas born in ancient cities. Urban inheritance from the past. Central crossroads have long been gathering places. Today's roundabouts and plazas trace their lineage to the Greek agora and the Roman forum, open spaces for debate, trade, and communal life. Municipal governance, now handled by mayors and councils, evolved from the centralized authority of ancient kings and priests. Public administration and civic duty were first formalized in city-states like Athens, Ur, and Babylon. Markets, once simple trading zones, have transformed into global supply networks and supermarkets. But the principle remains unchanged. Cities are centers of commerce. From Uruk stalls to modern shopping malls, trade has always been an urban function. The layout of many modern cities, including main roads, grid structures, public baths, and amphitheaters, echo principles of Roman, Mesopotamian, and Indus planning. The ancient city has never truly disappeared. It has been adapted. Modern urban challenges. Despite technological advancements, cities today face persistent and growing problems. Traffic congestion remains a defining issue in major urban centers. Ancient cities were walkable by necessity. Modern cities, built around automobiles, now struggle with overcapacity and inefficiency. Air and noise pollution plague industrial zones and transportation corridors. Unregulated growth and reliance on fossil fuels have made many cities environmentally unsustainable. Social inequality is entrenched in the urban landscape. The wealthiest districts exist beside slums. Access to services, healthcare, education, housing is uneven. The very specialization that once made cities efficient has, in many places, produced disparity and exclusion. Affordable housing, clean water, and reliable sanitation, needs as old as the city itself, remain unresolved for billions of people. Despite smart technologies and digital infrastructure, the basics still challenge city planners. The root of these issues lies in rapid urbanization without sustainable planning. Cities expanded faster than they could organize. Infrastructure lagged behind population growth. The need for sustainable urban planning. To survive and thrive, modern cities must evolve, not by abandoning the past, but by learning from it. Carbon reduction is essential. Urban centers produce the majority of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. Solutions include efficient public transportation, green building design, renewable energy integration. Energy reuse and conservation must become central strategies. Waste heat, gray water, and organic waste can all be captured and recycled in well-planned systems. Preserving green space is no longer optional. Trees cool urban environments, improve air quality, and support mental health. Parks, green roofs, and vertical gardens are modern responses to ancient urban design principles that respected nature. The city must now be flexible, inclusive, and adaptive. Like the cities of the past, which evolved to meet new challenges, today's urban areas must integrate environmental, social, and technological dimensions into planning. Historical continuity provides guidance. The survival of ancient cities was rooted in their ability to respond to crisis, whether through engineering, policy, or cultural cohesion. The modern city stands at a similar crossroads. Its survival will depend not on its scale or speed, but on its capacity to adapt. Urban resilience is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity. Part 5. Exploring the urban fabric, beyond the stone walls. We are entering a new era. The city is no longer just a place to live. It is a dynamic system of technologies, networks, and human engagement. Urban life is being redefined beyond buildings and roads. The city is becoming alive. Smart cities, the future is now. Smart cities are no longer theoretical. They are real, functioning systems in places like Singapore, Seoul, and Amsterdam. Traffic is monitored in real time using sensor networks. These sensors adjust signal timing and help manage congestion. Energy consumption is tracked and optimized through intelligent grids and smart meters. Lights dim automatically. Heating adjusts to occupancy. Big data drives urban planning. Governments use integrated data streams, from transport to waste management, to forecast needs and deploy resources more efficiently. Technology is embedded in the city's core. Infrastructure is not just physical, it's digital. Cities are becoming platforms where systems talk to each other and respond automatically. The smart city is not a futuristic dream, it's operational and it's expanding. Vertical farming and clean energy. Modern cities face limited space and growing populations. Solutions must come from within. Vertical farming uses skyscrapers to grow crops in stacked layers. Using hydroponic or aeroponic systems, these farms produce fresh food in dense urban areas with minimal land use and reduced transportation costs. Wastewater is being recycled into potable water through advanced filtration and treatment technologies. What was once discarded is now part of a closed-loop system. Rooftop solar panels turn passive buildings into power producers. Combined with battery storage, they reduce dependency on centralized energy grids. This city is evolving from a consumer to a producer and recycler. It doesn't only use resources, it regenerates them. Self-sufficient neighborhoods and buildings are becoming essential components of urban planning. Community and citizen empowerment. A truly successful city is not defined solely by its technology, but by its inclusiveness and governance. Technology must serve people, not replace them. Cities must be shaped by their residents through participatory planning, where citizens have a say in zoning, transport, and development. Open public spaces designed for community interaction, recreation, and expression. Cultural preservation, where local traditions, languages, and identities are respected and integrated into urban design. Digital tools can support this. Platforms allow citizens to report issues, propose solutions, and participate in decision-making. Urban democracy becomes more than an idea. It becomes practice. A city that listens is more resilient. Public trust and collaboration are key to sustainable urban development. Redefining the city of the future is not just taller, faster, smarter. It must also be more sustainable, more cohesive, and more just. Sustainability means minimizing environmental impact, designing for longevity, and closing resource loops. Cohesion means designing cities that encourage interaction, reduce isolation, and support mental well-being. Justice means equitable access to housing, transportation, education, and digital infrastructure. Urban success is no longer measured in GDP or skyline height, but in quality of life. The ancient city was built from stone and sweat. The modern city is built from data and design. The future city will be built from ethics and imagination. Urban fabric is not just concrete, it's people, systems, and the values that bind them. What lies beyond the stone walls is a vision of the city as a living ecosystem, adaptive, inclusive, and self-aware. The challenge is not to build more, but to build better.
Wind of vengeance.
Nothing will stop the march of my empire.
will attack the Greeks with my entire navy.